People, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. It's the 8th of the 1st. Happy International Women's Day and all of that. A few stories to go through. We'll start with free speech champions because they're at it again, defending free speech as they always do. This time, the free speech defending Tory MPs have expressed anger over Gary Lineker's free speech. He tweeted his belief about the government's immigration plans, which he appeared to compare the Home Office policy to Nazi Germany, which is tiresome, quite frankly, and lazy, remarkably lazy. We can't just go Nazi, 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 Nazi. Authoritarian, totalitarian, removal of free speech, wannabe big dicks, all of this stuff absolutely fine. Don't just chuck it into that. You know, you could say that they only get hard when they picture a refugee drowning. That's fine, absolutely fine. Just let's go past this obvious fucking stuff. The BBC will now be speaking to Lineker over the matter. Tory politicians have widely criticised the comment and urged the BBC to take action. Tory MPs have also said that Lineker is out of touch, which is too ironic for me to want to deal in, quite frankly. Same old, we love free speech, you should be able to say anything, trans people aren't real people, also, you can't say this, no, that's bad. There's consequences in it. Right-wing tedious fucks don't want consequences for their actions and want everyone else to be quiet. It's the truth of it. Half of Britain's and Ireland's native plants have declined over the past 20 years, with non-native species now more numerous than in the wild. It's the start of a story that's going to give Farage a fucking heart attack. This study from the Botanical Society of Britain and Ireland, who have spent 20 years collecting data. The research has implications for native insects and other species which rely on plants that they have evolved alongside. Agricultural practices and climate crisis are the main drivers of a decline in native plant species. Scientists have said that as they're calling for more action to tackle the loss. Changes in farming since the 1950s, such as nitrogen enrichment, habitat degradation, and changes in grazing pressures, have led to a decline in species such as heather and harebell. Additionally, damp meadows have been drained, leading to substantial declines in plants such as devil's bit and other plants with names that people have just fucking chucked some darts at a board with names and said, how about that? Ancient arable wildflowers have faced worse conditions than other species, with a 62% decline. This is because traditional grasslands, you silly prick, grasslands have been reseeded and over-fertilized. Climate breakdown has affected many species. For example, mountain plants such as alpine speedwell and snow pearlwort, which depend on places with a lot of snow late in the spring and summer, have declined because of climate and there being less of it. Planting of non-native species is also degrading peatland, with Dr. Kevin Walker, who is the BSBI Head of Science and Plants and Plant Atlas 2020 co-author, which is the author of this particular research. has said there is a lot we can do to reverse the declines, but the most important are to increase the protection the plants receive, extend the habitat available, and place their needs at the very heart of nature conservation. It's important, isn't it? You know, it's one of the things. There's so many different parts of the country that we ignore, that slip through the cracks of our consciousness, because we are bombarded every day with 24-hour news to keep us dizzy and confused over everything, and so we miss potentially important things. A reduction in insects will be catastrophic. We all know this. You hear it with the bees. The bees gone, we're fucked. Bees gone, we're fucked. That should be the new chant. That's how you get children to go to sleep at night. Just whisper in their ear, bees gone, we're fucked. Bees gone, we're fucked. We need to take a moment and put things into where they all need to go. It's a weird ending. Anyway, Suella Braverman has denied that the government's new fuck immigrants law would breach international law, which is just one day after telling Tory MPs that there is more than a 50% chance of the plans being incompatible with the European Convention of Human Rights. But who cares about human rights? Not us. Under the new plans, which will see asylum seekers arriving into the UK via small boats, detained and deported, the government have claimed that it will deter people from crossing. It won't. However, as of yet, we have yet to get any details on the new detention facilities or when people will be deported, because they are making it up as they go along. It's the same. If you ever get a chance, have a look at how many changes there have been to our terror laws. Because it feels like every 6 months for the past 20 years we have changed our terror laws, and nothing has really changed. It is a continual attempt to make it seem like we're doing something, and it is the exact same with refugees. We're putting on all these new laws. There was a new law 6 months ago, the Nationality and Borders Bill. Now bringing in a new law, and in 6 months there's going to be a new law. We're tackling it. We are tackling it now. We are like Martin Johnson. We're tackling it so good. But it's bollocks. It's just there to distract you. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad. They're doing nothing. They're incompetent as the day is long. The UN Refugee Agency has said that it was profoundly concerned by the bill's provisions, which would give the government the right to criminalise, detain and deport asylum seekers, saying it would be a clear breach of the Refugee Convention. The asylum backlog is out of control, of course, with 166,000 people waiting for decisions to be made on the applications, which is a record, so well done us. The bill will also announce an annual cap to be decided by Parliament on the number of refugees the UK will offer asylum to through safe legal routes that we do not have. We don't have any safe legal routes. One of the reasons why we're having so many people come over in the boats, because they've got no other fucking way to come over, because we've stopped all of the ways. And sure, Suella Braverman will go, I think you'll find, if you have a look, Syria and Australia, not Australia, Afghanistan and Ukraine. You always say that. Then you actually have a look at the numbers. I think Afghanistan, something like 22 people in a year we've accepted. Fucking, oh, Jesus wept. But the number of refugees will only be selected once the boat crossings have stopped. So if you're going to look at it as a particular a bit of sadness, or we say a touch of nihilism, which is not something I normally aim for, you may think that the Tories will use the fact that you'll have one boat a year, say, to come over as a way to continue to not allow any refugees over. You can have a look at it like that. Who knows? There are two stories left. This is a very three stories left. This is a very interesting one, a bit more, maybe add to a thought experiment. Leading lawyers have said that restrictions placed on non-violent climate protesters who have been tried in criminal courts were part of a deeply concerning pincer movement narrowing their rights to free expression. 3 Insulate Britain activists are serving jail terms for contempt of court for breaching rules made by the judge that they could not mention the climate crisis, fuel poverty, or the history of peaceful civil rights movement to juries. The judge said that the trials were not about climate change or whether the actions were to be applauded or condemned, but whether or not the protesters caused a public nuisance. The defendants' motivations for acting the way they did had no relevance. Similar rulings restricting freedom of expression defences had been placed on peaceful protesters in trials at other courts. Why this is an interesting thought experiment is because two sides can make very, very valid arguments here. One, on the freedom of expression side, is we should be able to say why we did these things. What's the motivations for the protests that caused delays that have got us currently in the trial? The other part is from the judge's side, where he says it doesn't matter why you did it. The question for a court of law, is did you do it? Did you break the law? Because the motivations mean nothing. You can kill a man and say, well, he was about to kill someone else, and I saved him. The question is, did you kill him? That's the court. But then you can argue that the reasoning for doing something may mitigate the reasons for breaking the law. There is no simplicity here, which is why it's such an interesting thought experiment. You can sit down and have a think for yourself. Where do you lie? I'm on both sides, I think, unfortunately. I agree with both. I do think that if you break the law, you have to deal with the consequences. That's one of the reasons why these protesters are so brave and so right, is that if you break the law because no one else is doing anything, you do have to take the consequences for doing that. And if you got to a point where juries were going, well, he did this, but this is the reasons for it, so he doesn't go to prison, then you are saying at that point, if the jury believe that what you're doing is for a good enough reason, then you can do what you like. Within reason, of course. See, there's different points. Anyway, the cross-party House of Commons Public Accounts Committee has said that it was concerned with the HMRC's plan to close It's a taxpayer protection task force focusing on recouping fraudulent and faulty claims made on the government's COVID-19 support scheme, potentially putting up to 5.1 billion of taxpayers' money at risk. The HMRC estimates between 2 billion and 5.1 billion of fraudulent and faulty claims on furlough, the support program for unemployment, and Eat Out to Help Out are likely to remain unclaimed or unrecovered by 2023-24. In 2021, the government invested £100 million into the Taxpayer Protection Task Force with more than 1,000 staff to try and recover the billions that were lost. In January, the HMRC admitted the unit had not proved value for money and will close it in September. The task force is expected to retrieve between 525 million and 625 million pounds. If you consider that they're saying that the minimum is 2 billion, it's not really a high amount. And if you think that if you went to 5.1 billion, it's fucking nothing. Christ. 2.3 billion was paid to employers claiming furlough for staff that continued to work, which of course was illegal. HMRC has opened 50,000 civil cases for fraud across COVID schemes by October 2022, but just 31 criminal investigations by November 22. So there's something going wrong there, where the HMRC is seeing all of these frauds and saying, well, I think a lot of you are doing frauds, but not actually going to a criminal case for them for some reason. They should, really, they should. Finally, brave protests in Georgia, in the Georgian capital of Tbilisi, after Georgia's parliament backed a controversial draft law which critics say limits press freedoms and suppresses civil society. Riot police used water cannons and pepper sprays to disperse the crowds. Police arrested 66 people, including one of Georgia's opposition leaders, who was reportedly beaten. So that's bad, isn't it? There's been widespread international condemnation of the bill, which would require non-government and media organisations that receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad to declare themselves as foreign agents or face fines or possible imprisonment. So this will be NGOs, charities, all of this stuff. A real kick to, as it's mentioned, press freedom and civil society. Opposition say that the law shifts towards an authoritarian regime and would damage Georgia's chances of joining the EU. It's strange for a country like Georgia, who in 2008 was invaded by Russia, a country that has very similar laws to this in place, and they would look at the bastards that invaded them and wanted to take them over and go, I tell you whose laws we should be following. These mad fucks. Well, that's it for today. Hope it was interesting at least. Have a good one. Bye.